Major John Madden in my camper van in Jalapa, Mexico. This is a talk about how to know things, or especially how to know what's true for you or what it is you're supposed to do. It's true for as simple a thing as when should I make a talk about how to know things. And the way I knew that this was the time to make the talk was because I knew it's as simple as that. It takes a lot of practice to get good at it. You just have to do it a lot. You just have to practice going, well, what do I really know about this? What do I want? What's the simplest answer? There was a book that influenced me a lot, maybe 20 years ago, called The Path of Least Resistance, like rolling downhill. What's natural? What's the natural thing? What do I know? And the way to get really good at hearing that voice is to practice. And to practice, you have to get really good at ignoring what everybody else says. Don't trust what anybody else says, period. But especially about you. The Buddha said, this was the tagline on my business card for a lot of years. The Buddha said, doubt everything, find your own light. Now, the way that in the last week or so I got even clearer and sharper about that is I wandered off that path momentarily. I've been spending a lot of time at a coffee shop around the corner from where my car has been parked for a couple of weeks. And they had a tarot card reader who was going to do readings on people. And back in my youth, I used to be really into psychics, getting psychic readings and tarot card readings and things like that. Not during the period where I was studying with Sri Chinmoy in New York City, who was a pretty good spiritual teacher. And I have allowed myself to be influenced by several spiritual teachers in my life. Sri Chinmoy was a good one. One was a bozo, and I knew he was a bozo the whole year that I spent on his path. But I did it anyway because a couple of my really good friends were there, and I was kind of lost at that time and needed something. But I knew he was full of shit. So I didn't listen to him, but I hung out on that path. Yeah, I used to do that stuff. And I allowed myself, during the hour that she was giving me a reading, I made myself really open and receptive and really listened and took it serious. And it was all in Spanish, so I recorded it. And I was going to spend a bunch of money to have somebody translate it. And one of the things she said that kind of influenced me was, there's a question facing me when I get out to the Yucatan Peninsula, which has been my goal for a year and a half or maybe 2 years. I have friends out in Cozumel, and I do know that I love being by the ocean. I get really happy there. I do know that I want to spend the rest of my life in a place where I can swim in the ocean every day, because nothing makes me happier than that. But the question has been, when I get out at the Riviera Maya out there, where there's all the resorts, and I do know that I want to be around a resort where there are people who can use my coaching, because I've developed a couple of products around coaching that I could offer to people at resorts who have time and money, and then offer it to other people who don't have money, because some people are paying money. So I know that. But the question has been, when I get there, should I stay there? Part of me wants to. Part of me wants to settle at least some. Certainly still travel a lot, because I'm crazy about that, and there's so much to discover in Mexico. But should I make that a base of my operations, maybe the primary base of my operations, and rent a house, a little house by the water somewhere? out not quite in a resort area where I could afford something. Well, so that question has been hanging, but I know that the answer is that I won't know till I'm there. No, the only time you can really know something is right now. So much is going to happen between now and then, and there's so much information I cannot have until I get there. I'll know how long I'll stop at Cancun, which looks geographically like the first destination I'll hit. But I know I want to check out Playa de Mujeres, Cozumel. I do have friends in Cozumel, one, and other places. There's another place, a much smaller place that I know I want to check out. So I won't know until I'm there. But I got a chance to ask 5 questions to this Enya, this supposed tarot card reader who really doesn't know any more than me about tarot cards or about anything. And she sure doesn't know more about me than I know, because I'm the only one who can know. But I asked her, when I get out there, should I stay there and make it a base or just keep traveling? And she did whatever she does and said, yeah, you ought to keep traveling. She pulled the card and said, no, but you know that the card isn't telling her that. She's making that shit up. And she knows that. But she thinks she's psychic, so she thinks it's important. So I said, oh. She said, yeah, you ought to keep traveling. I went, wow, interesting. And it took me until like that evening to go, no, you don't know. She doesn't know. You don't know. You won't know till you're there. There's no way you can know in advance. So it made me really... And then I asked one of the staff at the coffee shop who had listened to the whole reading. I said, well, do you remember any of it? Can you just translate some of it? And she says, well, one of the first things she said was, you're carrying a lot of self-blame, and it's one of the real issues in your life. And I said, that's not true. That's not true at all. That's totally bogus. I'm not carrying any self-blame. I'm a totally happy guy. And since I had my spiritual experience, the first biggest one, on June 19th of 26, June 26th of 2019, I don't have any of that shit anymore. And I said, so I tried to give her a little something and make it easier on the poor tarot card reader. And I said, well, maybe she was picking up what it was like for me 4 years ago, because for a long time that was true. But then I went, no. And I said to Monsi, who owns the coffee shop, I said, long time ago, I got a reading, psychic reading, from a woman who, my son was like 4 or something then, and he was with me, and he was just playing and just being himself. But she obviously doesn't like kids and got nervous, and he was bothering her, he was distracting her. And so at one point she says, there are dark forces around that child. And I saw through that in about a hot second. I said, no, you're irritated with him because you don't like kids. So, bye, I'm done. I'm out of here. You're obviously full of shit. And she was. Don't let anybody else tell you who you are, and everybody's going to try. Everybody's going to try. Middle-class people, U.S. middle-class people especially, are going to try because that's their specialty, is judging. Judging. They love to do that because it makes them feel powerful. And sociologically, middle-class people they're not rich, they're not poor, they're trying not to be poor, they're working hard at stand on top of things, and they try to look good, they try to do the right thing. They're always worrying about who's watching, how am I looking, and so they do that to others too. They're judging everybody else, who's ahead, who's keeping up with the Joneses. So recently, an old, really important friend of mine for years, who is really middle class, laid some judgments on me. I got back in touch with her on her birthday after not talking to her for a year or two on the road. And she just immediately laid a judgment on me that was so ferocious and so casual. And she said, well, about my son. She said, well, there was that period when you were pretty much of an asshole in his direction for a long time. No, that's not true. It's not true, but it's so like you. Just to think, oh yeah, I'll just make a decision about a whole period of his life and his most intimate relationship with his son. I think I know what's going on there, and she's just playing God. Yeah. So, is it the voice for God that we're hearing? I like to say that's the language I use. But if in fact we are always all one with everything, and that's my rock solid reality, that's where I come from all the time since I had that experience 4 years ago. And I like to say it in terms of the voice for spirit or the voice for God. But it's just what I know in that moment where I knew. The way I tell the story is, in a moment I heard God say, the voice for spirit said, you know why you're unhappy? Because you gave up a job that you loved because you were making too much money to stay in that subsidized senior building that you hate, but it's subsidized, and you were making too much money, so you had to give up the job you loved to stay in a place you hated. But your friends were telling you to stay there because it's a good deal and you've been moving too much. That was their judgment. So I tell the story by saying the voice for spirit said, the voice for spirit said, that's the way I quoted, but actually that's not the way it worked. I did not hear a voice out there. I just suddenly knew. And I've interpreted it that way as a way of telling the story that makes some sense to me and to others, because I didn't know yet that I know everything and that I'm the only one who can. But that's it. So I know when it's time to push the button and make a tape, because I know it, because I'm hearing it in my head and I say, boom, it's ripe. It's ripe. That's the way I used to write a poem. I would make a commitment to the church I went that on that particular date I will deliver a poem on this topic. And I would fret and write notes and boom, 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 boom. And then it would download. At some particular point I'd say, whoa, there it is. It's in my head. Better write it down. And I knew I used to say I'm downloading from spirit. Well, spirit, I'm spirit. We're all spirit. There's no spirit out there. There's no God that's separate from us. That's the central fallacy of so many immature religions. They put God out there. But if in fact God is all one and everything there is, then how is he separate from us? And how is he a he, for Pete's sake? No. It's just there. Boom. I heard it. I knew it. So I would download the poem, and it would be like 20 minutes or half an hour, and it'd be almost 90% in its final form. And I'd say, that's the most spiritual experience I ever have, because I'm one with everything. I'm in touch with something much bigger than me. I hope it's obvious how crazy that notion is. It's just I knew. I heard it. It was in my head. It was ready. It was ripe, and I'd write it. And then I'd tinker with it, but mostly just tinker. Now, how do I know that it's time to stop a particular talk? Because the voice for spirit says shut up. Well, it's because I'm saying shut up, because I'm looking, going, is there more? No, I don't see much. So I shut up. Shut up. Hasta luego, baby. Yeah.